Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to
Alaikum
especially
salam and good morning to you as well. Ramadan Kareem.
Ramadan Kareem to you, Doctor. Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for attending this webinar, for being part of the session, for agreeing to become the respected guest. I would like to introduce to you our respected guest, Dr. Ishtiaq Hossain, the Associate Professor, Department of Political Science, International Islamic University, Malaysia. Thank you so much, Doctor, for agreeing to become our guest for today's webinar.
Thank
Not
you.
to forget,
Pleasure.
our beloved audience, thank you so much for spending your morning to join our webinar today. So what is the topic of our webinar? You might be wondering what is the topic, right? So the topic of our webinar today would be Disability Inclusion and Sustainable Development Growth, SDG, on peace, justice, and strong institutions. Before we start, let us first get to know our respected guest, Dr. Ishtiaq.
Well, my background, I have a degree in international relations actually throughout my life, right? Both undergraduate, postgraduate. My PhD is on political science, of course. Then I started work mostly based in Singapore, right? So where I worked in National University of Singapore for about 20 years. But based in Singapore, I went around the world, right?
Thank you, Doctor, for your introduction. I think it's very long journey for you to involve in political science field. And yeah, thank you, Doctor. And by the way, before we continue, I would like to introduce ourselves as well. I am Salinah Zazali, and together with me is Aisha Umaira is my partner. Okay, so I think let us proceed with the discussion, Aisha.
Let us start our discussion with the question. Okay,
Okay.
so first of all, Doctor, what is disability inclusion to you?
Okay. In my journey throughout life, I've seen both sides. Okay, I've seen that in some societies, uh, disability is not looked down on, and in fact, disabled people, for example, those who are suffering from uh, impairment of hearing, all right, or they don't say blind, okay, they say something else, all right, not to offend. All is there are societies where they are actually part of the decision making. I think that's very important. But I've also seen societies where civil servants, social workers act as if they know what is best for the other groups. So they will impose their decisions. To me, I think that's a wrong approach. To me, disability inclusion means that during the policy making, especially policy making and implementation, the so-called disabled people should be part of the solution because they know what is best for them. To me, I think I'll be very frank. This is not a textbook answer. I mean, if you look at the website of the CDC in the US, they also have the definition, which runs along something along these lines. All right. So these are societies which are very different than others. Okay.
Thank you, Doctor. So you said that disability to you means when this group of people, disabled people, is also given the equality to be part of the society, right? So how would you relate SDG 19 that involves peace, justice, and strong institutions to disability inclusion?
Okay. Uh, a society is composed of various people, right? Okay. Now, sustainable development and these ideas, if you want to implement that, you want community involvement. The entire community should be involved in. And if some parts of the community is left out, you don't achieve your objectives. So by nature, it's not only this, but even other underprivileged people, if they are not part of the process and you don't have the institutions to include them, then of course the entire United Nations efforts for the SDG will come to naught. So that's why I think it is very important. It is important for everybody to to be involved. If you go back to the definitions of sustainable development, without community involvement, you cannot achieve anything. You can't. I mean, if you're looking at our university right now, all right, and it's making an effort, undoubtedly. But without the involvement of the students and the staff, involvement means not only going down and working, okay, but also really believing in these principles. Then you will see the changes. Because otherwise, there won't be any change. I'm sure of that. I'm sure of that. So I've seen societies where disabled people um, are helped on the street, school bus, on buses, public transport, airlines, without any question by others. And they'll go all the way out because it is part of their behavior, you see. I want that kind of situation where this will become your behavioral pattern and my behavioral pattern. Only then it will work. That we nobody compels me to work. I'm not doing it for the sake of maintaining some laws. I'm doing it out of my, I wouldn't say generosity, but I think it's the best thing to do. It's a value. It's a value. So it should be imparted amongst us. And I think that's how we should work. I want a situation, I wish for a society where this should be accepted as values, as confirmed values, and we do it on our own. And that will be the way out. All right. Then you can actually guarantee justice, because without institutions and without treating everybody equally and including everybody, you are not really doing any justice to the system nor to the ideas. That's the point.
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. So you said that SDG or Sustainable Development Growth can only be achieved if this disabled people is also part of everything in the country, right?
Yeah.
So based on your understanding, how has Malaysia promoted the rule of law, transparency, accountability, good governance, and non-discrimination at all levels of government for PWDs?
These are actually very big words. All right. You are using so many what we call in political science cliche words. You're bringing in good governance, this and that. All right. I think I'll try to simplify the complex problem for you. All right. Uh, Sustainable development, the idea is nothing new. I must tell you this. It has been around since 1980s or early 1970s, when for the first time in 1972, there was a conference in Stockholm, where for the first time this word came to be used, sustainable development, because that was about what is possible for housing. All right? That was in Stockholm. It was followed in 1980, 82, I think, in Rio de Janeiro, for the first time, the Earth Summit, where for the first time, not only the governments, but hundreds of NGOs participated. And that was mostly about uh, saving the forest. Because then by that time, scientists found out how CO2 was really creating problem for the climate change. All right. So they started talking about industrial production. They said, how much CO2 is being polluted by these big industrial complexes. So it's nothing new. It started from there. And the whole idea was that, look, if you are using up forests and then energy sources, you are using it up, and we are not really planning ahead of time. Now, during my time in New Zealand, what I found was, it's a beautiful country, and you can see rolling hills. So what I noticed, one side of the mountains, it was empty. There was nothing, absolutely nothing, no trees, no nothing. And on the other side, you can see some trees which started to grow. So I asked around, what is this? They said, okay, the side that you see empty, we already cut down the trees. Okay, but on the other hand, the side that you see saplings, we already cut it, but again, we planted some trees, and they will grow and in full grow within 5 to 10 years. So they are planning ahead of time. That's sustainable development. That's sustainable development, because if you use up everything resources that you have, what you will use in future, it doesn't matter. Everything that we have now, if you do not include these physically impaired or other other impairment human being who have talents, who can give solutions, but if they are not included there, you are actually denying their right to take part in these kinds of development works. You just look around, you don't have to really read textbooks or articles, journal articles to do these things. I was watching this program, and this was actually an immigrant in Australia. Probably she was from China. You know what she has done? She has developed IT for physically impaired people, those who cannot see, those who cannot hear. It was so wonderful. So here there are cases where otherwise they would not be part of the society's process. So it is advisable that they are also part of it. Now, I don't know how far Malaysia actually has done it, but certainly there are laws. Certainly there are laws in this country, as it is in other countries, because Malaysia has no option. It has ratified that Disability 1980 convention. All right. So it doesn't want to be looked at as something else. So I think the problem perhaps lies, I don't know, I haven't done any detailed study, but probably the problem lies in terms of implementation, because that is a common problem in this country. There are laws, no doubt, very strong laws, but there are no implementation. All right. Very simple things, very simple things, very simple things. When I first came here, I saw, uh, are you from KL? I'm sure. Okay, let me give you one example. Perhaps, I should not name the places, but I was shocked to find out that if you go to Jalan Ampang, very few places have actually crossings for pedestrians. During my time, when I first came here, I'm talking about 2002, 2003. Busy street, so I was scratching my head. How do I cross the road? You see, I mean, this is not for physically impaired, but, physically mobile people. That's what I mean. This is a very good example. So whenever these laws are made, the physically impaired people must be included, because those laws who made these laws and implemented and went to the street had no idea, absolutely zero. So they must be told, hey, look, come on, there are people who cannot really cross. Right. Then I saw a bridge. Now I was again thinking, well, I can climb up the bridge, but how a wheelchair bound man is going to cross from this side to the other side? Have you noticed that? Most of the streets are like this. Very simple. So no matter how you make the laws, doesn't matter. Question is how you implement. So that's why, from the very beginning, I am saying that in the institutions, for example, these kinds of the physically impaired people must be included in the decision making. They are the ones who will actually alert the others, look, that we have a problem, that how are you going to get me to the other side if you build this bridge, footbridge. Okay?
Okay, thank you so much, Doctor. Doctor, it's really interesting when you said that everything that we do now will affect everything in the future. And also when you said that in the implementation in our country must include, or the decision making in our country must include disabled people in everything, right? So in your opinion, how could these efforts in relation to PWDs in Malaysia be improved?
How? Well, I will be very blunt. One should try to improve the sensitivity of people like us. We are not sensitive to the needs of others. Why that is the case? I'm sure that if you ask an ustaz, he will give you good, lengthy lecture on Islam, that we are supposed to treat, how we are supposed to treat. But the problem is how these values are being imparted on us. If that is the case, then how come we are not sensitive? How come we are not sensitive, isn't it? So no matter how you recite number of times the relevant surahs and hadiths, that really doesn't matter. What matters is at the end of the day, the essence of these ideas, how those are imparted on us, and how they are part of our life. I'll give you examples from non-Islamic societies. All right? Okay. For example, in spite of everything negative about US, especially New York City, all right? People say it's a jungle. It is actually, it is. So many people, my God, so many cultures, different languages. But it's an exciting city. To me, it's a very exciting city. Now you go there, and if you find, let's say, a wheelchair-bound person, or let's say physically impaired or can't see properly, all right, eyesight problem, trying to cross the road, I can tell you, cars will stop, and there will be 4 or 5 people going out to help them out. They will, because that's how they have been taught from the very beginning of their life, which is really amazing. Now, I can see that happening in Malaysia as well. I'll give you 1 or 2 examples. If you look at the social media, especially Facebook, all kinds of videos are uploaded. The other day I saw, I think probably it was near Bangsar, probably, right? I saw a small puppy, a small dog, which stopped the traffic because everybody was running after that small dog to save it from onrush of traffic. And there was another picture which really, I was really moved. A policeman stood guard to a wounded dog on the street. So these are, empathy, which you can find in any religion. It's nothing particular to Christianity or Buddhism or Islam. I believe that it's part of humanity. So I want that kind of a society where we will react in this way as part of our behavioral pattern, that we don't have to be instructed to do that. Just think for a while. What's the pleasure of working under compulsion? And what I told you about US is true, absolutely true. I've seen that. Whereas in this country, I've seen next to my apartment building, when this wheelchair bound guy was trying to cross and he signaled for the other cars to stop, the cars honked him. Do you want that kind of a society? How are you going to build up a society? I'm not saying that everybody is like that, because obviously the other two videos is a very good example. And you know what? They were all young people like you. They're not old people like me. They're all young people like you. So somehow, uh, the younger generation of this country are picking up these kinds of value systems, which are absolutely beautiful to watch. Okay? So that would be my kind of a society. Caring, not only caring, but doing something about the future as well. Then you can build up a strong institution.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for the explanation. And I think people nowadays are losing their empathies. People nowadays are losing their common sense towards ordinary people, either ordinary people or person with disabilities. So, in your opinion, Doctor, what is the real obstacle this person with disabilities face in regards to SDG 16?
Difficult question to answer. Uh, it is difficult actually. It's not easy. Let me try. Let me try. Uh, I would say that it. I think it's not. Don't take a generalized view, because what you are saying is a very pessimistic view. Because you started off by saying that people are losing empathy, isn't it? This is what you said. But I actually argue against this. In my life, I've seen that in fact, empathy has increased, even in this country. All right, I would say that. Okay, uh, I'll give you an example. We had a lecturer in our kulia. He is no longer with us. He has gone to another university with a promotion. He was he couldn't see anything, so he always used to walk around with the stick. And he has a PhD also, because without PhD you can't get appointment, right? And his colleagues, myself and others, we always try to help him out. The university never gave us any instructions. Neither did we get any kind of reward. We did not do it for reward. So if you say that empathy is disappearing, well, it has to be mixed. Perhaps you came many examples. That's why you have these kinds of ideas. But to me, no. In fact, through more and more understanding, media is a powerful force. You are in communication department. Communication media is very powerful. Very powerful. It molds, it shapes our minds, isn't it? It helps to shape. Now, if you are resistant to it, then it's your problem. But it has positive impact also. And I think one of the positive impact is this: when such cases are actually discussed, when successes made by physically impaired are highlighted, all right? I've seen, for example, in the past, how those who students who really cannot see properly have passed with flying colors in your school exams, haven't you? So, how is that possible? So the teachers, school teachers must have worked extra with them. That's why, institutions are also very important. So maybe in future, they will become, I don't know, they will become some respectable figures in their fields. Now, how do you overcome them if they, let's suppose, there's lack of empathy, all right? I think religion is, of course, one very important thing. We immediately go to religion, immediately. But religion and religious practices can only do that much. The problem is cultural influences. I think in all societies, no matter how you believe that culture really cannot impact religion, but if you ask around sociologists and others, studies have shown that in all countries, in all religion, local cultures does have impact on religious practices. You go to South Asia, you go to Southeast Asia, you can see the influence. All right. So, what I'm trying to tell you, all culture has this negative built-in image about physically impaired people, unfortunately. So it's very difficult to uh, rectify this with religious influence. We can try, certainly, but I can tell you, it's not easy. So here, cultural influences, negative influences are much more uh, powerful, much more powerful. All right, there are different cultures in South Asia, Southeast Asia, those countries where it is bad luck. It is bad luck. Say a wedding is going on, perhaps it's a bad luck to invite some physically impaired people. All right. Why? Oh, the children of this couple will become this and that. So don't bring them. You see? So built in, these are cultural influences, nothing to do with religion. Nothing to do with religion. These are all culture. So how you overcome these negative impacts and negative ideas actually depends on long education, the system, right? You are in a different system. I was in a different system. All right. So we had a, I would say that, I mean, looking at your education system, I would say that although I didn't say this, actually, I was born and brought up in Bangladesh, okay? We had a much more broader education system, much more broader. We're exposed to, let's say, I always say this to my classes, right? That I'm really amazed. We actually benefited. I benefited. We studied Africa, we studied South America, we studied Southeast Asia, we studied Malaysia while we were in university. You don't study Bangladesh, do you? You don't. But we did. So we know. So ours was a much more broader. So I would say that broader education system would actually help us. The other thing which helped me is, of course, getting educated in the West. I got a lot of feedback. I worked in the West for a long time. And again, it was my experience which tells me that actually people were much more sympathetic, in spite of what you believe, they were much more sympathetic to me in 1970s. Right. For example, in class parties, they will make sure that I had my orange juice or Coke, no alcohol, because they knew Muslims don't drink. And they respected me for that. So it's the same thing. If somebody suffers from physical impairment, they will be respected for that. They will not make it an object of taunting. But in different cultures, it's the other way around. I've also seen that. In my own culture, I've seen that. In my own country, I've seen that. That how physically impaired people are actually not really welcomed, especially on religious occasions and joyous occasions. They are seen as as signs of bad luck. All right. So, it's culture. It's nothing to do with religion.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your explanation. Well, I quite surprised when you say that the empathy of people nowadays are increasing in Malaysia. You mentioned about the one of the obstacle of this person with disability facing now is culture, and culture make these people the life of these people harder. So in your opinion, sir, what is Islam sees mention about this person of disabilities? What is the significant people with disabilities that Islam has mentioned earlier?
I think you know the answer, but again, let me repeat. It's my firm belief, all right, that Islam actually has been very respectful, very, very respectful. This is a point that many of us really don't advertise to other people. We don't do that. We do not disseminate this idea. So there are some negative views about Islam, how they are treated. Okay. It doesn't even use the term disability. And that is because of they're so respectful. All right? They are so respectful. And I think the word is underprivileged, if I'm not mistaken. So if you look at a religion which which actually is so respectful, so obviously from the very beginning of our history, perhaps it was not institutionalized. That is our problem, probably. But individually, individually, our first Khalifa, for example, he did that. Or was it, yeah, the second Khalifa, he did that. He did that. When somebody complained that his son was not, it's a very famous hadith, that when somebody complained that his son was not able to attend mosque because of his disability, so he built a home. Now, this idea should be institutionalized. That it was then when people were very limited. Now you have millions of people. So you need to transform this into, you need to institutionalize them, take care of them.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. I think you have covered the answer of my next question, but it's okay. Okay, and yeah, moving to our next question, which is my personal question to Doctor, because I really wanted to know your perspective on this. So, how or what your opinion? Will this person with disability have a bright future or not so? Yeah.
Well, they'll have bright future, provided,
Yeah, I mean the bright future is the equal opportunity like other people.
okay, provided all facilities are provided to them. You must understand that. I'm pretty sure you understand that. For people like you and me, we can perhaps struggle, all right. But those who need little bit of push up, those facilities must be provided. For example, introduction of ITs for visually handicapped, all right, or introduction of new systems which can help them. Very simple things. If you have, let's say, an office, nice building, nice staircases, but no ramp. Now you tell me how are they going to utilize the facilities? All right. So I think it's very, nobody should underestimate their ability. We should have faith in their abilities to achieve the maximum, but provided we offer them the facilities. Undoubtedly, they need perhaps a little bit extra than we do. We should be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we can still move around, we can still see, we can still hear. And I think when it has been seen even scientifically, I have seen this through observation, all right, that when something is missing in a physically impaired person, either the senses become very sharp, you will notice that. They become very good. They become very sharp. You know, they cannot see, but they are, my goodness, they're very sharp. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually gives them something extra. So it is that extra that we should be able to identify and help them to develop further. And for that, of course, every citizen requires help. But they are special and we should try to help them out.
Thank you very much. And we are actually come to the end of our discussion. And I would like to conclude that um, each of us citizens begin with the awareness. I mean, when we are joining the webinar like this, you get the awareness of these people need to be taken care of. So when we have the awareness, we have the empathy. We have the empathy to each other, and we tend to help and seek each other's condition, right? So I think in order to build the peace, justice, and strong institution, begin with how you care your people, how you care other people, right? So yeah, before we end, if there's any question from the audience, you may put that in the chat box, and Doctor will answer it. Okay. Thank you, Sister Asila, for the question. Okay, Doctor, she asked that what do you think about the level of strength of Malaysian institution? Thank you, Sister, for question.
Hey, thank you very much. I think my explanations about UIA is a very good example. All right, it is gaining strength day by day, and thanks to younger generation like you. That's one, because there is much more awareness. The much more awareness. But at the end of the day, whether the awareness is very strong amongst us or not doesn't matter. All right, because at the end of the day, it is the awareness of the policymakers that matters, isn't it? They are the ones who make policies and implements this. So I hope some of them are aware, and as they become much more aware, things will begin to improve further. All right, you can see uh, lots of things happening, futuristic things. All right, public transport, for example, or office facilities, and access to these facilities in different government institutions, for example. Big buildings are fine, but you have to make sure that everybody has equal access to those things. I keep going back to these things because you can see that around you all the time. All right. So hopefully these institutional changes will continue to happen in the future, and that's a good thing. And young generation like you in leadership role, inshallah, Malaysia will also change. Say 20 years from now, it will change. I will come back to Malaysia and see, oh my goodness, all my students have become policymakers, ministers, not even a prime minister. Why not? Things will change. Don't worry. Inshallah.
Hopefully, inshallah.
Okay. Yeah, hopefully. Okay, I hope that answers Sister Asila's question. And yeah, I think discussion is very full of insight and knowledge. I get a lot of insight about person with disabilities. I know a lot of terms during this conversation. Thank you very much, Doctor, for your clear explanation and your experience back then. We would I would love to hear more about experience, because I I'm attractive with experience stories, from our lecturers, from our lecturers. So yeah, thank you very much, Doctor. Aisha, do you have any conclusion
I just
or
want
word to say?
to say thank you so much, Doctor. Great explanation. Similar with Lynn, I am also interested in knowing more about this topic, especially because, in Malaysia specifically, we do have many PWDs, which
Mm-hmm.
maybe part of them is not well taken care of, perhaps, and maybe all your explanation will change our mind about
Yeah.
this group of people. So inshallah, in the future, we'll try the best to have a better understanding or a better uh, care of this person in the future, inshallah.
As
Inshallah.
doctor said, as doctor said, things will change eventually. Inshallah. I mean,
Inshallah.
It will. It will. Be optimistic. Don't be so negative. You're young. Be optimistic. Optimistic for future. Include everybody. Yes. I really believe in that. Things will change. Inshallah.
Inshallah.
okay,
We are
doctor, do you have?
changes.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed talking with you. And I don't know when we will be able to go back to campus. There you are,
Yeah.
there you are most welcome to come to my office and have chit chat. No problem. Face to face talk.
Inshallah.
All right.
Inshallah.
Eventually.
Eventually,
Well,
inshallah. Let's pray. Let's pray for that day. All right. We'll celebrate on that day. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very
uh,
much for the
All
okay.
time.